This video is going to go over naming and knowing the values and directions of transformations that are applied to functions. So, the very first thing I would say before you even start talking about transformations is know which letter or know what each letter represents, kind of. So, what I mean by that is if there is a negative here, it's going to be a reflection every time. Or A is always going to be a vertical stretch or compression, etc., etc. So I would really study this and know what these are before you even try to dive into this. Okay, and then there's another general rule. If it's outside the parentheses, it affects the y. So everything outside the parentheses affects the y, and the y is vertical. So that's super important to know. If it's inside the parentheses, then it affects the x. So B and C are inside the parentheses, and they affect the x. Well, the x is horizontal. So that's really important to know. Also, if it's inside and it affects the x, everything is opposite. What I mean by that is if it looks like a stretch, it's actually a compression, that kind of thing. But let's just dive into some examples, and we'll see if you can figure this out. Okay. So when I look at this first problem here, first thing I see is this negative out in front. This is a reflection. And more specifically, this is a reflection across the x-axis. Anytime there's a negative in front of that letter A, or where letter A would be, it's going to be a reflection across the x-axis. Okay, the next thing I would see is this, the 1/2 here. It's outside, so it affects the y, so I instantly know that it's vertical. And then it's multiplying by 1/2. So if you multiply something by 1/2, you have to kind of think to yourself, well, are you stretching or compressing it? Well, if you multiply by 1/2, you're compressing. So this is a vertical compression. And some teachers might want you to put times 1/2 to get more specific, but okay, this next one, this +1, this is inside the parentheses. So that means it affects the x. So that means I can instantly know it's horizontal. Now, if it's in the C slot right here, it's always a shift. So this is a horizontal shift. I just have to figure out left or right. Well, +1 makes you think right 1, but remember, everything is oppo if it's inside the parentheses. So this is actually a horizontal shift left 1. And then this last guy, this -4, it's outside, so it's vertical. It's in the letters D slot, so that's a shift. And then I just got to figure out up or down. Well, it's outside, so it's not opposite. So -4 would be down 4. Okay, moving right along. This next one, the first thing I see is the A slot has a 5 in it. Well, A slot is vertical, and it's either a stretch or compression. This is 5 times. That's timesing something by 5 is going to stretch it. Vertical stretch times 5. Then the next thing I see is this negative. If there's a negative before the B slot, it's always a reflection. And it's always going to go across the y-axis. The next thing I see is this 3 by the x. It's in the B slot, so it's horizontal. Then I just got to figure out if it's a stretch or compression. It's timesing by 3. So your initial thought is to call it a stretch. However, remember, everything is oppo in the parentheses. So this is actually a horizontal compression. And you could even put like divide by 3 or times by a third, same thing. Because remember, it's opposite. And then this last thing, this -4, it is outside, so it's vertical. It's in the D slot, so it's a shift. Then I just have to figure out if it's up or down. -4 is down 4. Okay, moving right along. Now, look, I put these last two problems on here because I need to show you the difference between them. If it is not factored out already in front of the letter X, like this one has a 2 in front of it, but this one has a 3, this is out already. If it is not factored out, you may want to go ahead and factor it out. So what I mean by this is rewrite this and divide everything by 2. Factor out a 2. And the reason is because when you go to name these transformations, this +6 right here, if you say horizontal shift left 6, this problem is incorrect. Because it's not really shifting left 6. There's a compression in there as well. This is a compression. So the easiest way to do it, I've found, is just factor it out like this, and then go and answer what each thing is. So this is in the B slot, so it's horizontal. It's either stretch or compression. It's timesing by 2, so you think stretch, but everything's opposite inside the parentheses. So this is actually a horizontal compression. And you could put divide by 2 or times a half, doesn't matter. And then this is your shift. It's a horizontal shift. And +3 makes you think right 3, but everything's opposite in the parentheses, so it's actually left 3. See, the shift was not left 6. That's the key takeaway from this problem. Now, if they give it to you where it's already factored out like this, that's best case scenario. So let's walk through this last problem, and then that'll be it for this video. This negative in front is in front of the A slot, is a reflection. And remember I said if it's in front of the A slot, it's always across the x-axis. Then I get to the 4. It's in my A slot, so it's vertical. It is timesing something by 4, so that would be a stretch. Times 4. Then I get to the 3. This is in the B slot, so it's horizontal. It's timesing by 3, but it's opposite, so it's actually a compression. Get to the C slot, the +1, that's horizontal. It's a shift. And it's 1 to the left. Remember, it's lying. It's opposite inside the parentheses. And then the last one is this +2. It's in the D slot, so it's a vertical shift. And it's telling the truth. You do what it says, so just say up to.